Well, a South African family is pleading with Immigration Minister David Coleman for asylum as violent attacks on farmers in that country escalate. Nicky and her 3 children were subjected to an horrific 4-hour ordeal at their farm after a man broke into their house, tied up her children, shot her and violently assaulted her and her daughter. The acts were unspeakable. They were carried out in front of those children, whose hands were tied with fencing wire. Earlier this month, Nicky's attacker was imprisoned for 173 years. I spoke to Nicky earlier on Skype and started by asking her about how she and her family are coping, what their hopes and dreams are, and talking about her attacker. Take a look.
We've tried to figure out what the motive behind the attack was, and, you know, we just don't know. But we're not safe where we are. We're afraid every night. We lock every door. We've got an alarm system.
How has that brutal attack affected your children?
They've got guilt. They've got guilt that they couldn't do anything that night because they were tied up. They've got, you know, they've lost a lot of their confidence, you know, and they really do not feel safe where we are.
In all the media stories, your surname isn't published. Just for people watching Sky News tonight, why are we prohibited from saying your surname?
The judge who sentenced our attacker wanted to protect the identity of our children because of the nature of the sexual acts in the attack and the brutality. And, you know, I see his point because the children are still at school.
Nicky, the appalling details of crimes committed against you and your children have been published in South Africa. How has that been received?
We've had unbelievable outreach of many, many people, you know, offering their sympathy, and there also has been a backlash of people saying, well, they're white, they stole our land and they deserve this. So there are 2 sides to this, and the hard part of it is that every single day in the media we have groups, political groups, calling for the slaughter of white farmers and calling for the torture of white farmers. Now, an interesting point is that Hani and I, we didn't get given our land. We, as a young couple, we actually bought our farms, both of them. And we bought them, we took bank loans and we bought our property. So you know, it's very difficult when people, every single day you hear that, you know, it's being called that we have to leave the country and we're not wanted, and, you know, that people are actually calling for the slaughter of white farmers.
In March last year, Nicky, Minister Peter Dutton directed his department to examine how he could better assist white South African farmers facing violence in their homeland, saying Australia had an obligation to help. He said it's an horrific circumstance that they face. Australia has a refugee and humanitarian program, as well as a number of other visa programs where we have the potential to help some of these people that are being persecuted. Those were Peter Dutton's words. Expats and supporters rallied here in Australia, Nicky. How was that news received in South Africa?
My husband and I were just so relieved that maybe we'd be able to, you know, get out of the situation we were in and start a new life for our children. And, you know, for nothing to have come of it, that's what we've lived for. For more than a year, that's what's kept us going, is the thought that maybe we would be accepted into Australia and be able to start a new life, you know. You just want your children to be able to walk to school and be safe, and you don't want to look over your shoulder all the time. I'm sorry, it's emotional for me because it's just, that's what we've been living for. It's kept us going, you know. You live in limbo. We've lost our home. We don't have the life we had. Every single thing we knew for 17 years has changed. And that's the sad part, is that we have been rejected and we don't understand why.
Nicky, David Coleman is the new Minister for Immigration. Quite a few of us, Peter Credlin, Andrew Burrell, myself, are trying to get to speak to him about this issue. Can you tell us and Sky's viewers, what sort of visa did you apply for to come to Australia?
We applied for the humanitarian visa, and we filled everything in. We had a lot of letters of support from friends and family in Australia, saying, that we were good, hard-working citizens and that we would be an asset to come and live in Australia.
Do you know why it was rejected, Nicky?
We do not qualify as refugee or humanitarian candidates.
Do you think that if you'd left South Africa and fled to a refugee camp, you'd have a better chance of coming to Australia?
I think definitely we probably would have. We don't want to come to Australia with nothing. We want to come there with a start so that we're not a welfare case, and we want to secure jobs and be an asset to the community. We definitely don't want to be a burden to the Australian government.
A humanitarian visa would see this nation opens its arms to you and offer you succour, but you've said that you want to work in Australia. Just tell us briefly your husband's skill set, your skill set, and what kind of work you would see yourselves doing in Australia.
Heine has 25 years of farming experience. That's fruit farming. He is a brilliant horticulturalist. He's worked on new varieties of citrus trees. He's an absolute perfectionist in his field. His farm is pristine. He's dealt with water shortages. He's dealt with a lot of similar issues that farmers in Australia deal with. So he's it's not that different to what we are doing here. The other thing is that he's been a very successful farmer, so he could be an asset to any farming enterprise anywhere he goes. So because of his success in his own business here. And I am a clothing designer. I started my business 6 years ago. I could start up my business in Australia. We sell beautiful baby wear, children's clothing and ladies wear. Or I could get a job as a designer for a clothing company. So I think, we have a lot to offer.
And Nicky, just for the record, you've told me this before, this isn't just about you, is it?
Yeah, I felt such a moral obligation to speak out and to pursue this, because there's so many people in the same situation as us, and it's escalating at such a rate